You're watching Sunday Sound Off with Frank Bull.
Welcome back to Sunday Sound Off, and our first hot topic of the night. How big of a problem is it when players start questioning the offensive game plan? And no one better to start this with than Tim Grunhard. Tim, you getting that hot, or you getting the offense? Everybody's sort of not listening to the coach or doesn't believe in what he's going to do.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if it's a problem or not, but it's something that certainly is going on. This is not new. These guys didn't all of a sudden say, well, maybe they're getting a little conservative. They're just like us. You know, when you're in the locker room and you're sitting around with the guys and you're playing dominoes or you're hanging out between meetings, you know, guys, the conversation will turn to the games before and say, hey, you know what, we got to get more playmakers going on and plays going on in the second half of games. All those kind of topics come up. So this has been discussed. This is not a new thing for the offensive players. And the defensive guys, too. I'll never forget sitting on the back of the bus with Derek Thomas and Neil Smith and, you know, getting back there and say, hey, you know, what's going on with the offense? You know, how come you guys can't score points and all that stuff? And you got to answer, and you have to go through those things. It's part of the maturation process of a season. But, you know, it's going on. It always will go on. Now, obviously, you don't want to air your dirty laundry, but I think we got a sneak peek into the kind of what the consciousness of what's going on in the locker room by those couple of clips that we saw earlier.
Blair?
Yeah, I'll give you a sneak peek at Sam Mellinger's column tomorrow. He writes about this, and in it he describes a scene in the locker room while Travis Kelce was dressing and getting ready to greet the cameras and the tape recorders and the notepads. Charkandrick West, who is nearby Travis's locker, stood up on a chair and looked at Travis, pointed to his head and said, "Be smart, Travis. Be smart." And so we got the toned down version, I think, of Travis Kelce in the post game press conference today. Look, I think what he said was fine to call it conservative, to question the play calling, and then he kind of quickly corrected himself and said he wasn't trying to call out the play calling, and to come up with some reasons why the game today was called the way it was. Did the weather have something to do with it? Coldest game at Arrowhead since at least 1994. But look, Travis is right. There has to be an explanation and some reasons why this team hasn't scored an offensive touchdown in almost a month in the second half of games.
Yeah, Seren.
Well, look, you know, I know it's not popular right now to take the bats out of everybody's hands who is currently bashing Andy Reid.
Don't say bat to Tim Grunhard.
Yeah, well, because you know where he'll put it.
All right, don't say bat.
Those who remember Tim's legendary
quotes.
Yeah, one of his more famous quotes.
He was talking to me, by the way.
It'd be hard for people to sit for a while if we have to go down that road. But no, look, I'm going to tell you this. All those players need to look in the mirror. Is the play calling conservative? Yes, they're a conservative team by nature. Nobody's complaining when they're having to defend 20 extra plays against the Atlanta Falcons, and still winning the game. The bottom line is this. I mean, we've done enough on Andy Reid. Let me see. They had 3rd and goal from the 1 and couldn't punch it in. That's where you got to just man up and beat somebody across from you and stuff the ball in there. 4th and goal from the 1, they couldn't punch it in. You remember a few weeks ago against the Raiders, everybody was complaining because a hungry pig right could have been a lateral, and what if he dropped it, and then it could have gone the other way, and that was only a 7-point game. You got to run the ball. Well, guess what? They can't. They can't man up. Their offensive line, their running backs, they cannot just man up and push the guy across from them into the end zone, and that's a problem. And then let me tell you something else. Look, the quarterback drops back and looked right at his receiver and threw it right to the defensive back, who was clearly right in front of the receiver. So we could talk about, the conservative game calling and all that. Bottom line is the quarterback stunk. He made a pass that he can't make. If he's going to be a safety-first quarterback, he can't throw that pick. So those players can look in the mirror. They can shut up and look in the mirror because they didn't get it done either.
And here's our second hot topic of the evening. What's wrong with the red zone offense? I think Seren touched on it. I know Timmy's going to touch on it. Blair, you're first.
Well, you're right. Seren just did touch on it, and it's worth repeating a couple of those thoughts. That I think it's an offensive line that's not built for overpowering a defensive line on 3rd and goal at the 1, 4th and goal at the 1. How about an opportunity to ice the game with what would they have 3rd and 2? Needed to pick up 2 yards to basically take a knee and go into victory formation. Couldn't pick that up and had to punt back to the Titans. And of course, Titans got their game-winning field goal off of that possession. So it's not it's a young offensive line. It's not a huge offensive line. I think it's built for more of West Coast offensive style than power running football style. You know, we've seen the Chiefs have issues with the running game this year. You know, Spencer Ware's a hard runner, but he's not shifty, and it's going to be a struggle for him even to get to 1,000 yards in pretty much a one-back offense this season. So there are all kinds of problems. And Seren again touched on this. The interception in the end zone was just awful. How about, Alex Smith has thrown that same pass twice this year. He's been picked off twice, and the Chiefs have lost both games by identical scores, 19-17.
Seren?
27th in the NFL. 27th in the NFL at touchdowns inside the red zone. I mean, that's deplorable. I mean, you just can't live like that. They've got to be able to convert touchdowns. You know, a lot of people have talked about, well, offensively they're 26, 7, whatever, but scoring-wise they're 14th. Like, you take out the 7 defensive and special team scores, and this becomes like the 22nd scoring offense in the NFL. So when it's just the offense, they're not very good. So, look, a lot of that, that's Andy Reid, but it's also their personnel. And that's not to say they have bad personnel. They don't. Okay, that's not it. But it seems like they do well in the first half when Andy Reid's had all week to figure out his gotcha moments, find the little holes on tape, the Tyreek Hill run, and he takes off and goes. But as you get through the game, and Tim can tell you this, there aren't 57 gotcha moments to be had. At some point, you got to line up and beat the man across from you. And when it gets down to that time, this team has not been good enough personnel-wise. I think Andy Reid actually masks a lot of their deficiencies with some of his great game calling, some of his great film analysis during the course of the week. And then when you're done with all those tricks and they got to just beat somebody, they're not good enough on offense.
Tim, you talked about this downstairs.
You know what? It brings me back to in the 90s when it was Wednesday afternoon practice, 2.5 hours into practice, Marty would blow the whistle and say, we're going green, we're going goal line, offense against defense, one-on-one, let's go. Let's go see who's going to win this battle. And you had to win your individual battle, and you practiced that. The pussification of football has happened in the NFL. You can't put the pads on, but, a certain amount of times. All these different little things that are doing, and it's taken away. Blair hit on it. This might not be the biggest offensive line, but look at me. I'm not that big. But you know what? We practiced it. We understood how you pull your shoulder pads tight, you get your face mask straight, and you throw your head in there, and you throw your hands in there, and you drive the guy, and you finish in the end zone with your guy. That's the goal. That doesn't happen on this team. So when you're inside the 5-yard line, you got to get fancy and some trick plays, the big pig left, the option right, the reverse tight end reverse, instead of just smashing in there. And Will Shields folding around, and Dave Zott and Tim Grunart blocking back, fold around, follow Will Shields for a touchdown. And it was a tough play. It was a physical play. You just don't see that right now with this team. And they did try to do that, by the way, but the pulling guard, I think it might have been Tardif, was back behind the running back because the whole offensive line was getting caved back in. So they've got to find a way to get tougher. And the other thing is, and I think it was Macklin that said, well, this was a locked route. You know what that means? There was no other option. He was going to throw the ball to the wide receiver. He's going to throw it to Macklin, come hell or high water, and he threw it, and he didn't care that somebody was sitting right there to intercept it, and that's a sin.
All right, and we only have about 1 minute here, guys, so real quick, can the Chiefs win 3 road games? Seren, 10 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. They proved that with their last 3 wins before. This is a step back. There's no doubt about it. But, yeah, they've done enough that, yes, they can do it. Would I bet on it? No. But can they? Yes.
Tim.
Yeah, they can. They just got to be perfect. And can this team be perfect? That remains to be seen.
Blair?
They've won at Oakland. They've won at Denver. They've won at Atlanta. Yes, this team can win 3 in a row. They need the open week, though. They need the bye week, get some people healthy.
Yeah, as long as they don't have to go to Pittsburgh. Up next, we're going to get some final thoughts from the panel. It's their time to sound off on anything that's on their minds. You're watching Sunday Sound Off.